Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome to episode 1 of Undercast Show. I'm your host, Cody, and with me, I have America's sad boy, Greg,
Hi.
a big saucy man, Christian,
That's me.
and last but not least, we got Joey. Hey, what's up? Today's topics, space travel. So
Yes.
Greg, uh, what
Delicate,
about
delicate like a
space
flower, dude.
travel?
Well, what do you want to know?
Um, we should just talk about if it's possible. The future of space travel, how long it'll take us to get there, and that
I
sort
mean,
of thing.
space travel is possible. It's just it's what you're looking to accomplish. I mean, it's feasible. Like in the next couple hundred years, we could end up in outer planets and making colonies and stuff like
I
that.
want
But
to
if
go
you
to
try,
Mercury.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mercury.
But okay, so the thing with going to Mercury is there's no real reason to.
I'll go
See,
Mercury.
that's the thing, because you're dumping all this money into this thing. There has to be a reason. Like when politicians are putting money towards NASA or whatever, they want something out of it, right?
Yeah.
So like going to Mars, like what's the? I see the benefit personally, to advance the human race and all this shit. But like, how do you explain it to a politician that doesn't see any benefit from it?
At that point, it kind of has to be like, hey, look, this thing is popular with the public because they think it's real cool. So
Yeah.
do it, and you'll be popular, and you get voted in.
If if you're gonna try and explain it to a politician, that's different because they're concerned with being popular. So you're just gonna have to say if you get to Mars, and like you're gonna end up with another space race situation where we just want to be the first ones to the moon just because we said we could. Like that
Because that's what
now,
gets them elected.
yeah. Now Mars is kind of a different story because it's a completely different planet. We're leaving Earth's sphere of influence. It's more moon. The moon was a single country trying to get there first, but when we're getting to Mars, we're getting there as a species. It's humans from Earth trying to go to a different planet.
Exactly.
So
Right.
so it's not quite the same thing. Now, I mean, Mars, it's relatively similar to Earth. It's got a similar landmass. Or it's got basically the same amount of land because it doesn't have any oceans. It's about a third the size, but you don't have the ocean, so you've got all the land that you could colonize, and it seems like the next logical step. It would be the easiest one for us to plant our foot in the door and start making a colony there.
Right.
So that's why Mars is always the big thing. Now, Mercury, going back to what you said, Christian.
I don't actually.
I know you don't. I know you don't want to actually go to Mercury, but it's hot. It's not only super hot there; it's also really cold there. It's Mercury's day is longer than its year, so it's actually got a weird orbital cycle like that.
Because it takes like forever for it to go around.
Yeah, I it's
So
go on.
earlier we were talking about how maybe like you do it because it's unpopular with the public. I actually don't think the public wants to even do anything with space. Like the general public. Like if you're talking to like a baby boomer, right? They lived in the space race age, but I feel like like 20-year-olds nowadays they don't really care that much.
I'm gonna put it to you this way. Just looking at like the news and everything and judging other people's opinions, just kind of two sides of the spectrum. When you get like a lot of the more conservative people, look at the fucking Space Force thing that Trump pulled out. Look at how popular that was with them, because he turned it into like a nationalist thing. As dumb as it is, his whole bullshit that he's doing, it's that concept. They're making it like a nationalist thing. They're making it like we as Americans, they could maybe extend it to a bit wider than just one country. It's like we're going to be the best to do this. We're going to be the first people. If you were trying to appeal to like 20 somethings, you want to, all right, not 20 somethings, sorry. You want to appeal to like liberals. You want to appeal to people on the more the left side of the spectrum. You'd have to phrase it as like a humanitarian thing. tell them that like, oh well, we need to start colonizing other planets. We gotta spread out across the universe so we don't use up all the resources on this planet. That sort of like that's the sort of arguments you're gonna have to come up with. They're gonna have to be tailored to whatever the beliefs of the people you're talking to are.
And
Right.
and I think that's what comes back to the whole. When we went to the moon, it was going as a country, but going to Mars, that would be going as a planet, and that doesn't appeal to a ton of people because, as
No
much
excitement.
as much as it sucks, not a lot of people look at the achievements of the human race. It's people looking at the achievements of their country because they want to feel special for being born in some place.
Maybe we should just start killing people.
I don't know if that's the way to go, but
Jumping right to the gun on that one.
yeah, you're really going. You're just running
Damn.
straight for it there.
So when do you think we'll get to Mars? What was Elon Musk's whole his goal? What year did he want to hit?
I think he wanted to get there by 2030, something like that. 2022.
2022.
How many people was he signing up? Like 100 or?
I think that's what his colony ship was.
And is that's still like underway, isn't it? That he hasn't like canceled that operation.
Yeah, I think
He's got so much more going on, too. Oh, it's
yeah,
only
he's
40.
I don't think he'll actually make 2022. Like it.
No.
Yeah.
That's 4
His cars
years.
can't even make it off the production line in time. Not saying they don't come out. It just
Oh,
That's
for
a lot.
Tesla cars?
it's
Right.
a little far. It's a little far fetched. You know what I mean?
Like
Right.
2030, 2040. At least 2040 is not super unreasonable when you think of that.
2030, 2040, yeah, right around there. I think that's plausible.
Like that's
Especially
That's in our
depending on how much,
lifetimes.
how much, how far the technology advances in the next 20 years.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is technology can go really far in 20 years. I mean,
like 20 years ago.
1917 though. Think about that. That's or 1917 I believe. 1907. That was when the first flight took place. I know I have that right. We get there in the end. 1945 we went from just getting off the ground the first time to dropping nuclear bombs. That's a 28-year span. Like
We went from getting off the ground to getting rid of the ground entirely.
basically. I mean, stuff moves quickly. And I mean, the whole problem was a lot of progress is motivated by war, which sucks, but that's generally how it goes. It's really just motivated by just trying to one up the other people. That's why the space race was so.
It's like, fuck those commies.
Yeah, that's why it moved so quickly. And there was a ton of technological advancements from trying to go to the moon, but we were just trying to beat the Russians there. We're not trying to beat anyone to Mars. I mean, I'm willing to bet if China announced plans to start a colony on Mars, America would be there 5 years earlier. I mean, we need someone to beat, but we have no one to.
Maybe that's like the grand conspiracy of it all on like a global scale, where all the nations, there's no like shadow cabal in these fucking nations. It's just like the people with all the power in there. They meet together and they're like, all right, we got to get the people behind a space operation. So we're all gonna say, that we're going up and we're going up and we're going up, and it would motivate, the people of the countries and like the lower level politicians to sort of like stir everybody up. Like, we're gonna get there before fucking China, before Sweden, before Russia.
Sweden.
I
yes.
just see that Casper said the first missions will be used to seak out sources of water and build a propellant plant.
Wasn't
But
just recently there was something
I guess
about like
they
water?
just found it was like I don't know however many kilometers wide, but like only a couple kilometers deep, like a huge lake of water. The Italian researchers found it, and now they said obviously they haven't like found it for sure, but I guess they said with a pretty high degree of
chance.
confidence that a high chance of confidence, that there is that there is a lake there.
I did my It's crazy to see how things because I did my my senior project right before graduation. I did mine on like traveling to Mars and like all the problems with it and like how we could solve it and kind of like reasons why we would want to go there in the first place. Um, and it's kind of like that was 2 years ago, and all this other all these other discoveries have come out, and all this advancement in space flight, like Blue Falcon and whatever SpaceX is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just in 2 years, if there is someone behind it, you know what I mean? Like forward, it does get done, but you just have to. Someone's got to be pushing it. You know what I mean?
I'm just waiting for those
There's
Italians to
there's
turn that lake
strong
of water on
evidence
Mars
for
into
an
spaghetti.
underground. There's strong evidence for an underground lake of liquid water somewhere 12 miles long on the planet Mars. I guess it's on the southern like cap. I guess they found it
Oh.
because of because of the way like the North and South Pole are like the way it works here. Like
Yeah.
it was either there or it was in Alaska, like one of those places. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
And
But
I
like
think-
that's how they found like that's how they knew to look there.
Right.
yeah,
It was like that kind of same like location on Mars. If that makes sense.
and I mean, I'm excited for that as the next person, but I think it's still important to take it with a huge grain of salt because it's highly possible, and there is strong evidence, but it's by no means confirmed. So we think, but it's really cold on Mars. It could be carbon dioxide. It's tough. And well, not necessarily carbon dioxide, but it's important not to count all our chickens before they hatch, basically.
Especially when those chickens are on Mars and they're just real
Yeah.
unstable. Terraforming isn't there
Yeah,
yet.
well, I think that was kind of like the whole thing about it was that it's liquid or not, not like a different form. Like it's not
Yeah.
frozen. It's not.
Because if it's frozen, then it's a lot more work to get to it, and that's the big problem.
Yeah. But I think that was kind of like not so much that they found the water, more that it was, a lot easier, like usable form.
There's all this stuff like. All right, Craig. I'll ask you this. I think you're probably the one that has the most like opinion on it. Do you see like the colonization of other planets within the next 50 years or so, 100 years, 200 years as a solution to our planet's like environment just being fucked?
I absolutely do not think that is the way to go. We shouldn't be ruining our world because we think another one's just going to come in and save it. We've only got we've got a paradise here,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. There's no other planet or place in the solar system that can even come close to matching the hospitality that Earth gives us. So I mean, people thinking we can just go somewhere else and have it be all right. That's incredibly short-sighted.
Right. It's not.
I
like,
talked
I
to
don't
people about
get-
that, and they act like that's going to be the saving grace. Like that's the
Like, oh,
they see these like Elon Musk people talking about going to other planets, and they're like, oh, could this be? Is this it? Is this a solution to like us fucking the planet over? It's like, well, we'll just move. No.
Yeah.
Ningus.
It's I know this is a huge red flag in the science world because Neil deGrasse Tyson's kind of a black sheep nowadays, but
'Cause he's black.
all right,
he is black.
if I were to quote him, he was talking about the movie Interstellar. And I don't know if I'm sure you guys have seen it, but if anyone hasn't, the plot of it is basically the world is on its way to dying. So, Matthew McConaughey goes off in search of a new one. And one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's big problem with that is that it's hard to imagine a world that's so far gone that it's a better solution to leave it rather than trying to fix it.
Yep.
And there's so humans are an incredibly adaptive species. If we really just put our mind to it, I'm sure we could come up with something.
We have come up with something, just no one fucking wants to do it.
Yeah, no one wants to spend the money. That's the big problem.
Laziness.
I wasn't trying to derail things off of space travel there, by the way. I was just asking because
No,
I was
that's,
kind of
that's part
No,
of it.
it's
yeah.
entirely relevant. It's one
I
of
was
the
saying,
reasons.
I hear
for it.
that shit from people all the time, and I wanted to like get opinions on that.
Was Interstellar the one that like at the end is like kind of like the beginning again? Where like the girl's breaking, like she's hitting like the books on the bookshelf, and that's like sending
Yeah,
a
Yes.
well,
message to
Matthew
him.
McConaughey was hitting it from the fifth dimension. Or
Oh, he
whatever.
was hitting it, and it was telling her, and then
Yeah.
it kind of happens again, and then it's like a whole cycle thing.
I mean-
Me and Joey saw that movie in theaters, and we
Oh
came
my
out of it.
God,
We were
dude.
so like
Dude, we had an
mind blown.
argument about that for like literally like probably hours after.
Yeah, like 3 hours after, just arguing about what we had just seen, and no
I
one
mean-
could explain it in a cohesive way.
I mean, I'm a big fan of that movie, but the ending is extremely far-fetched.
It's all
I-
love, dude. Love travels through dimensions or whatever.
And I mean, obviously, they had to have a little bit of a Hollywood trope in there just so it could, otherwise it would just be like a very intense science, like, it would be a very intense Nova special if they didn't have something for it,
I
you know?
really, I
It'd
really
be
wish
the-
they
it'd be
didn't
the,
have that, though.
The Nova. All right.
all right. Anyways,
Welcome
But-
to McConaughey cast.
Yeah, sorry, here's the thing, right? So I've thought about this before. With the whole like space colonization thing, I think a big aspect of it that gets overlooked sometimes is, yeah, you right there, bud? Okay, moving on from that. I think Joey got his little tickle in his funny bone. The sort of one talks about how like how are we going to find the people to send up there? Because there's always enough people that volunteer for this sort of shit. They volunteer to like go up to other planets and to be like the colonization people. What's the kind of person who volunteers for that though? Like on average, is that the sort of person that's like reliable enough that we can send them off to other planets to establish some fucking colonies?
Dude, I'm gone. You tell me right now, Cody, one-way ticket to Mars, but you have to drop everything. I'm gone.
But like, think
Yeah.
of how long how long is he going to be asleep there? How long is it going to take?
Isn't it like 4 months to just straight?
A trip to Mars, if you launch it at the right time and it's at opposition,
Mm-hmm.
that you're looking at minimum 8-month trip right there. It's not a short trip.
Yeah, and it depends how obviously how fast you go and all that stuff. I did a whole project on like back in like the 80s. They were testing like ion propulsion. Like the Russians were working on some crazy engine that just gets like faster and faster and faster.
Well, I mean,
That was experimental. I don't think they ever.
basically every engine will just keep getting faster and faster and faster as long as you have
No, but
constant
this one uses
acceleration.
this one uses like way low energy, and it was like faster than the way they had done it now, and we're still doing it now.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, that's a long trip there, dude. That's a long trip.
it is a really long trip, and you have
How
to
long
just
is it? I'm sorry.
it's about 8 months at the shortest there. If you want to make a round trip though, you're going to be there for 4 years because not only do you have to have enough fuel to get yourself there and back, but you also have to make sure that Mars and Earth are close enough together so that you can get there with a reasonable amount of
Yeah, how does
fuel.
that work? Do they just have enough fuel to get them there and back? They must, right?
I
You're not
would
going to find fuel on Mars. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously
Well-
you can't refill, so it's just like
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
have
you
to
say
send
that.
scout trips beforehand with like supplies and stuff.
Yeah, you say that you can't find fuel on Mars. That's entirely true. You can find the chemicals to make
Need
up
it.
your own fuel. You could theoretically,
In
if you
like the ice caps.
theoretically, if you brought the right equipment down, you could make fuel on Mars.
but then if you're going to bring the equipment, you might as well just bring the fuel.
Yeah, well,
But
I
fuel's
mean, but you
heavy,
could also
that's
just send another ship with
yeah.
fuel and
the
then
whole
just
deal
fill
is-
it up and then just ditch the other one.
I think the whole theory
Yeah,
behind
fuel's
that,
heavy.
I think the whole theory behind that is you only have to bring the equipment once. So you would really
Yeah.
bring the equipment if you're planning on going back.
Yeah.
And
In
That's
my
not the same
project, we
thing.
talked about using the moon as some sort of like gas station
and
where things can leave from the moon like before you start leaving, and like you just use the moon as sort of like a weird gas station type thing.
Like some sort of satellite.
I mean, I guess so.
It
I
is-
mean, I think the moon is often over. You could use the moon in a lot of beneficial ways. One of the things that you really need to think about is that the moon does not have much gravity. It's really easy to launch stuff off of it. So if you assembled the rockets there and launched from there, you'd need to bring significantly less fuel with you, because Mars also doesn't have nearly as much gravity as Earth. So if you're using Earth as your launching point, you're going to have to use the most fuel out of all the options.
But that's also
you-
the logistics of like assembling a rocket on the moon.
I don't think that would be as difficult as you might think it would be.
Or just the fact that you're doing it in space.
That might be the problem, because you have to protect it from all the radiation and
That's
the
exactly what I'm talking about.
space
Yeah, all
dust traveling at 15,000 miles an hour.
The fucking,
That's
like, rocks pinging against the hull before you're done making it.
yeah. That's one of the problems you have to deal with.
Yeah.
But I
Protecting yourself from gamma
It's like
rays and all
building
that
a
sort of
boat.
thing.
It's like building a boat at sea. I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like it's not like you're saving yourself the time and the energy from taking off from Earth, but like building it there, I could see like having rockets on the moon. Like so you have like a shuttle that takes you to the moon, and then you have the main takeoff is from the. But
and I mean that's kind of true, but it's also kind of not, because you can build it on the moon and you can build facilities on the moon. It's not so much building a boat at sea, it's like building a boat on an island in the middle of the ocean. The whole problem is you've got to bring the stuff there and you've got to set up the right facilities.
the difference is that an island has basically the same conditions as like the mainland, except that it's smaller. The moon is in space. That's
Yeah,
like that's a condition all on its own.
but you could just burrow under. You could just go underground. Yeah, you could go underground in the moon.
It's like each stage of this is more and more setup. There's more and more like development.
Well,
with that,
with each
you
aspect
gotta
of
have
it.
money.
Doesn't it take a lot
Money's
less
not
fuel
there.
back? Wouldn't it take a lot less to get back to Earth to get
yeah,
to the moon in the first place, right?
it does take a ton.
Significantly less.
It takes a huge amount less fuel to get back, and also
Because you don't have to escape the atmosphere.
yeah. And
Yeah,
when I
because all you have
say
to- once you hit the atmosphere, you're just falling pretty much.
What are you saying, Greg?
when I say you could go underground, it's important to remember that there's a ton of empty lava caves already on the moon. There's tons of places where you don't have to do any digging. You could just find those and set up there. So it kind of takes away a little bit from the logistical problems. You would just have to make sure you had the right equipment and you could set it up in the right place. But it does take away from some of the work that some of it's already been done for us, just from the way the moon was formed.
What about if we wanted to start talking about like reaching further from the moon, further from Mars, interstellar travel, Greg? Never gonna happen.
I think interstellar travel could happen, but eventually you're going to start running into. Have you guys ever heard of the wait walk dilemma?
Mm.
No.
It's basically you're waiting for a bus, and the bus is taking a super long time to get there, and eventually you reach a point where you've been waiting longer than it would take you to walk. So
Yeah.
like people,
So it's like waiting too long and it's not even.
yeah, people are convinced that we don't have the technology to get to the stars, and I mean, to a certain extent, that's true. It would be quite an undertaking to try and get to a different solar system, but people are convinced that there's always going to be a faster ship, so why go now? And
Oh, I see. So they're not even putting any effort in
yeah,
right now because it'll just happen eventually.
yeah, and I think there's that certain complacency that's kind of toxic if you're just believing why should I put this work in when someone else is just going to come by and make it all basically a moot point, but everyone is having that viewpoint, so nothing's actually getting done.
That's
That's
why
why
you
we
need
have to bring in
innovators.
the competition.
Yeah,
Right.
That-
Because
that-
competition breeds
innovation. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need innovators. As much as Elon Musk might not be like the perfect human being, he is like a big proponent of doing
He's
exactly
definitely
what we're talking about here. So
he's definitely got his flaws, but he's actually trying to get something done, which I think is pretty admirable.
I'm reading here.
But he's rude to people on Twitter. Greg, he sucks. He's terrible. Shut the fuck up, internet.
The other
Literally
day he was
Hitler.
complaining about how busy he is all the time, and people were saying like, dude, you're on Twitter like most of the time, aren't you?
Did you see he did an interview with and
Oh yeah, I did see that.
With who?
he was like,
MKBH.
and MKBH, he's a tech YouTuber,
Yeah.
like a big tech YouTuber reviewer, and like the first question he asked him was like, he's like, oh, like I know you're a busy guy, and like Elon was like, he's like, yeah, well, I'm mostly busy because I'm on. Like that's like a joke. It was real funny. It's like real funny that he brings that up,
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even try to like hide it. He just like,
Dude, it was a really interesting interview because like I've never seen Elon Musk. I read articles here and there. He's got his Twitter and whatever, but I've never like seen him like talk and like be interviewed actually like in video.
yeah.
He was kind of awkward to like listen to.
Yeah.
Oh, he's really an awkward guy.
I'm not saying I would be any better. You know what I mean? And be like that. Maybe he was just super
He's at
nervous.
least not like a
but-
Zuck.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Zuck's so weird.
He's not a
Zuck.
lizard man.
Lizard man.
He's just an awkward, nerdy South African man who has big dreams for the world.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well,
I
I guess he
mean-
really is busy. I guess he like doesn't even like he doesn't do a lot of like meetings. He actually hands on, not like hands on to the point where he's like a factory worker, but like he's like actually in the factory. He's like making sure everything's going right.
Right.
He's not just like looking down on people, making sure it happens, but he's like actually in the factory and making sure everything looks good.
This thing,
That kind of
he's
thing.
like the reverse of the whole like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, like
paradigm
doesn't
where
even
he's-
see it.
Yeah,
Doesn't even see
Steve
what's
Jobs
going
didn't.
on.
Steve Jobs didn't innovate. Steve Jobs told people to innovate, and then was
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
enigmatic face of a big company.
Right. He was
Elon
the
Musk
marketing.
is like the guy doing stuff.
He's
As
doing
much
both.
as he's also like telling people to do things for him, he's
Well, he
also
can't
like
do it
telling
on
them
his
how to do it.
Right. He's the idea man and also the guy like behind that
Yeah.
can actually push
So
it.
he's
to
not like
fruition.
he's not like the orator. He's not the grand like public speaker talking about how he's got these big plans. He's like just the guy making the plans.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of video game consoles?
It's a great segue, Greg.
Wow, look at that. Look at
Okay,
that.
so for the next topic, I wanted to talk about maybe like our first experiences with game consoles or our favorite game consoles. I think I'm gonna start.
Excluding PC, because that's not.
I mean, no PC. You can include PC. I wouldn't discount PC.
No.
It's just I feel like for most people, their jumping off point isn't PC. I feel like it's very I mean,
Very rare.
Oh, I
Yeah, it's
still
Probably a lot more
rare.
common. Probably a lot more common today, I bet.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
get people
maybe,
like
for
I grew up
sure.
on like Bookworm Adventures.
That's-
no.
yeah.
You grew up
I
on
remember
King's
playing
Quest.
those really strange
You got
PC
Fortnite,
games.
dude. You grow up on Fortnite.
I don't want to think. I don't want to think about those people.
I grew up on Windows Pinball.
Oh,
Yeah,
the space.
fucking
Oh, that's a
right,
good
dude.
segue. The Space
It's
Man
actually funny
pinball
because
game.
really, like, probably one of my first games. I mean, really, it was like PS1, but like I played a lot of like early games on like computers, not like Steam games, obviously, just like pinball and then like other like little
Like
games like that.
Minesweeper or
Yeah, like
Back before I knew what the internet was.
yep.
It was an easier time, honestly.
so.
And
I'm
you
gonna
guys have
start.
dial-up still? So I still have
Oh,
dial-up.
dial-up still.
Fucking. No, not right now. Like at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't take a call at the same time you're on the internet, so whoever's on the computer had to get off. If you were on the internet.
That's one of those things that I don't really remember. I guess we must have had it because my parents were both in the Air Force, so like we kind of like kept up on technology, sort of.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. Like we must have had the internet, but I just never. Like I remember playing like Cartoon Network games on like their website, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Right.
using like the internet for internet things.
I don't know. My brother was
Yeah.
9 years older than me and big into computers, so like we had a router like as soon as I fucking knew
Right.
what internet even was.
Right.
Never on dial-up or anything like that.
So I want to start by talking about. I feel like this might be. I think this is Joey and my first console, the PlayStation 1.
Ooh, I remember ripping Big Game Hunter on the PlayStation 1.
Big
See,
game.
now are we
hunter.
talking original PlayStation or are we talking PlayStation 1? Because there is a difference.
I don't know
Because
if
I
there
had
is. Is there?
there. So the very first PlayStation, just PlayStation, not PS1,
The
didn't have
Nintendo PlayStation.
didn't have analog sticks, just a D-pad and your X square triangle circle. Then the PS1 had the analog sticks. I feel like a lot of people don't know that because if you look up,
Oh, I see. I see exactly what you mean. Yes.
yeah. And
'Cause
as far as
that's
I
what
can
was really
remember, my first console was really the original PlayStation. Yeah, I remember having that without the Joy.
I'm
Without
pretty
the, I
sure,
keep saying
I could
Joy-Con.
be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was just an innovation on the controller. So like the console was the
Okay,
same
was it?
controller, and different games came out and they implemented it differently. So
Like
so
when
here
that
we have a
Spider-Man game.
picture of the PS1 Slim.
Oh,
That
so
one,
maybe it was just maybe it was just the PlayStation 1 versus PlayStation 1 Slim, and then the
right. See,
controller.
I'm pretty
and the
sure they
one-
all play the same games. It was just like how like now for example, there's like I have my launch PS4, but then they have PS4
Yeah,
Slim now, so
yeah.
Yeah.
the console does that.
I remember when we got like the wireless adapter for the PS2 controller, and that was like
Oh.
the thing ever. Yeah.
So I remember, but it's weird though. Like I never had a PlayStation. My cousins had it, and I would just always play on theirs. You know what I mean?
See, that was like the exact opposite. I don't know if you had Nintendo, but like I never had Nintendo, but all my family did. Like my cousins and shit had Nintendo, so I always played Nintendo when I was at their house. Never when I was at mine because I never had it. I don't really know why. I guess just because that's just not what my parents bought. It wasn't really up to me, you know. Wasn't.
Right.
You couldn't decide.
Is
See, like,
there any game? Oh, sorry, Christian.
oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask if there's any like PlayStation 1 games that you guys like remember fondly.
Star Wars
I
Starfighter.
never had a PlayStation of any caliber.
Oh, you're not a PlayStation guy.
I had nothing to do with Sony.
Right.
Nothing at all.
Really?
Nothing to do with
Ah.
Xbox either. Just all into.
See, I never had an
Uh,
original Xbox. I got an original Xbox. I just
Oh, with the giant Duke controller.
I've never played an original Xbox.
The big ass controller. That I do
Yeah.
remember.
That could be like a totally different podcast topic in general, just like old controllers and like what we remember about the controllers. Because
Yeah.
that big giant Duke Xbox controller, dude, you could beat someone to death with that thing. That thing's
I
nuts.
remember we used to take the PS because when we had our PS2. Like I hated the rumble in it. Like I know a lot of people liked it because it was like new or whatever, but we hated the rumble. So we would take the controller, you just take the little. It's literally just like a little piece of metal that like spins really fast,
Piece of tungsten.
and we would just take that out so it wouldn't vibrate anymore. So we just hated it.
Ooh, you get in trouble with modifying your product.
I remember
Can't return that.
yeah,
Can't
your
return
boys
that
need
shit anymore at
warranty.
Target.
I remember
You-
like my cousins playing Spyro, or I had this weird like
Oh.
SpongeBob game.
Oh, I think I
Yeah,
had that same game.
What the
Was it the
SpongeBob
was
one?
it a 2D?
Yeah.
I mean, they were all 2D scrollers. Was it the movie one or was it the
No,
like
it
the
was
weird,
it was
like
a
the really
2D one, and you
like
collected
look at early?
underpants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Underpants was like your life or whatever. I remember playing, Crash Bandicoot and all this other stuff.
I
Yeah.
remember playing a lot of Star Wars Starfighter.
Star Wars Starfighter.
I mean, here's the thing.
Was that like Rogue Squadron?
If this,
That's what it sounds like.
yeah, it was a lot like that. It was basically you would be in a Naboo Starfighter, and you just fight stuff. I mean, it was a long time ago, so I don't remember all the specifics. But I mean, if
Right.
it based it that much, I also used to rent games from Blockbuster.
Oh,
So
I did that.
Oh,
yeah, I know, right?
Blockbuster and Age of Video.
dude, that's a whole other thing. We're definitely so VHS is so weird because it's only like 20 years that it was like a thing, and if you were born, outside of that 20 years, you have no idea. You have no idea. So that could
There's
be a
probably
topic.
old people that don't know how to use them, but there's also kids that don't know how to use them.
I think I still have some VHS tapes in the basement and no way to play them.
Right?
I remember
go through.
I remember when like VHS was like not like popular anymore. Like when it was like phasing out into DVDs and like everyone in like my family and everyone I know like was like talking about getting like they had like VHS to DVD like like machines or whatever that you could buy. And they were like talking
Right.
about wanting to get all their VHS stuff put onto DVDs and like
Yeah,
never
yeah.
happened,
DVDs went out the window a little bit too.
Home video.
100%.
Home
Yeah,
videos
well,
and
yeah.
stuff.
But like my parents' wedding is all recorded on a VHS, I think.
Oh, yeah.
All
Home
like
video
like
stuff. Yeah.
home video, yeah, like when I was a kid and when my siblings were kids, they were like it was all on VHS. So, well,
All right.
I can't relate to you guys with the whole like Sony thing. 'Cause
Exactly. Yeah. So
all of my
moving on,
all
so
of my
moving
stuff
on.
was
I remember we had a Medal of like my mom like didn't want us to play it because like I don't know,
shooting.
like 10, she didn't want to play with like a shooter game, so like she wouldn't let us play it, and then she'd leave, and me, and my dad, and my brother would all play it. And my dad would just let us play it. So.
I think
It
I
is.
also had a Medal of Honor game for PS1, but I was young and stupid and bad at video games, and I like couldn't get past the first level. I think
Yeah,
there's just
I don't blame you.
there's just a point where I just didn't know what to do.
young
Like-
Greg's just like, I want to shoot brown people.
Do you guys remember Twisted Metal?
Wasn't that the one with
Twisted
the
Metal.
clown?
Yes.
Yes, a clown
bar.
themed and
Isn't
But
that-
I
thought that was
think
the one
I
that-
played
Oh, no,
I
that
played the
was-
sequel at someone's house, but I never played the original.
That
No.
game also had a ridiculous first level that was like, if you were young and didn't really know what you were doing, it was almost impossible for you to find your way out. There was
this
a
one
maze.
game. It was called Hearts of Darkness. Hearts of Darkness? Is that right?
is that another
no,
military action
no. What the
game,
hell's it
or-
called? Hearts of
Hearts of Iron.
no.
Hearts of
fuck
Iron
me,
4.
what's it called? Hold on. Hold on.
So while Joey's looking that up, do you guys know the top selling consoles? It goes.
Do we what the top selling console?
Do you guys know the top selling consoles? It goes PlayStation 2, DS, like Nintendo
Hearts
DS,
of Darkness.
Game Boy, and then PlayStation.
Yeah, that seems like it makes sense.
Right. So PlayStation has 102 million sold. PlayStation
It was
2
called
is the
Heart of
best-selling
Darkness,
console
by
of
the
all
way.
time, 155 million sold.
PlayStation 2 is great though. Star
PlayStation
Wars
2 is-
Battlefront 2.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
of course. But a lot of people bought the PlayStation 2 actually because it played games as well as DVDs. That was like a big selling point.
Yeah, yes. I
That was
remember
actually
that.
like the biggest selling point of the PS3. It was like $700, $600 I think when it came
At
out.
launch, yeah, I
Like
remember
that.
I got the PS2.
And
It was
but
like, oh, it's
it
a
was
Blu-ray
like-
player.
But
Yeah,
but it was
right.
literally like the cheapest Blu-ray player you could buy. So people were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like, they were selling out just because of the Blu-ray players. Needless to say that they don't give a shit about them anymore because nobody buys DVDs. But
Yeah.
All right, so
Still do.
moving on from the like oldest to newest, I guess. Nintendo 64. Did anybody have any experience?
Yes.
So I figured Christian would be like the Nintendo 64 guy.
That was my first one that I had. It was the best
How
one.
old were you when? Because that came out in 1996. So like you must have got it when it was.
It was my brother's.
Right.
I had his. God, I was just that was just like the first because I would see Alex playing it. I'd see him playing like Banjo-Kazooie, Star Fox 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Wave Race,
Mario
64.
64.
Mario 64 we had and then lost, but I played it like on the. I played a little bit on that, and then I played it on the DS, which wasn't too long after. And then
Yeah, that was a remake on the DS.
yeah, it was, but it was just it was the same game. It was
Right.
like different, like the same
Better
principle.
graphics, but yeah.
You were talking about like games that your parents didn't want you to play. It's kind of funny because the equivalent of that for like all the Nintendo systems, I didn't have like Call of Duty or Modern Warfare or any Medal of
Is
Honor.
it
like,
Conker's
any
Bad
sort of-
Fur Day?
It was absolutely Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is hilarious because on the surface it's this like cutesy little game of a squirrel running around getting
Mascot
chocolate.
platformer, dude. It's in the age of mascot platformers, and
Yeah.
this one
And it
kind of
like
like broke the
completely
mold.
just shattered the mold. Because then like you go from being this cutesy little squirrel who's like running around collecting stuff to then like, oh, he's smashed. Okay, he's drunk in like a cornfield, and some scarecrow's telling him to fuck off. And then he like sodomizes a gargoyle with a frying pan and murders him. And that's like the opening of the game.
Don't you like fight a big poop man?
You fight the great mighty Pooh, who is he's a giant being comprised entirely of shit. He's like the Lord of the Dung Beetles, basically. There's because you kill a bunch of dung beetles because you want to get into like their poo castle, and you got shit to do in there. You got to get your. You fight the great mighty Pooh, who sings you to an entire opera about how he's going to like shove you up his ass and digest you without the rest of his shit, and then like send you into the nether realm is just shit. And
See,
you have to
they don't make games like that anymore.
you have to gather corn, sweet corn, to like
Oh, yeah.
lure him in, and you throw toilet paper at him to weaken him, and then eventually you like get him to open up the flush, and then you flush him down.
That's one of the games where you just hear about it like in passing. I never played it because I never had it N64. But yeah,
As much as people like the humor in it it's kind of bizarre. I was actually just talking about this with my brother the other day, or last week rather. It's weird because it's really like too juvenile for most adults. It's like a ton of it's like obviously it's super gory and there's adult themes, but a lot of it's just super juvenile. Like people are getting just cut in half. There's like shit. There's the Pooh Man. There's like a sunflower with huge tits, but it's also too adult for kids in a lot of ways. So it's kind of bizarre that it did as well as it did as a game. It sold really well.
I bet a lot of that was from parents not understanding what it was.
It's got to be some of it, and it's funny looking at its development. Meant to be that. It was meant to be like more along the Banjo-Kazooie line of just playful, like colorful animal in a cool world with good platforming. The platforming in the game is good. Just at its core, it's a good platformer. But like that's the focus of the game was completely turned away from the platforming and just onto let's just make this as fucked as possible.
N64 released June 23rd, 1996, sold 33 million.
Yeah. It was like a Christmas release, I'm pretty sure. The console, which helped. Oh, dude, it's Super Smash Brothers. Did anyone here ever play the original Super Smash Brothers 64?
Nah, you know what's funny? My first Smash Bros. Experience was on the Wii, actually.
That's what, Brawl?
Yeah.
Come on, dude. That's
Brawl,
you
dude.
can't do that.
Can't help it, I don't have any of the other consoles. I didn't even have a GameCube. I just played that like whatever daycare my parents sent me to.
Don't start fucking gatekeeping people just because not everyone has a game or a Nintendo 64.
Okay, listen, Greg. You were maybe not well aware, but anyone who plays Smash is well aware the Brawl was just like the worst one. And compared to other games, it's a good game, but just compared to like the rest of the Smash
So
games,
what's so bad? Like, I'm not really into. What's so like what's bad about it?
what's bad
just
about it?
interested.
So like
Yeah, is it like just competitively it's bad, or just like the
competitively it's bad. That was a big part of it, but it's also like the mechanics of the game changed so drastically. The only reason that like people like Brawl still is just because of the single player mode, which was great. The single player mode of the Brawl was excellent. It came right on the tail end of like Nintendo's period of catering to the public and making games that were like, oh, we got to make them look kind of gritty and darker. So things are kind of gritty, and it's like this kind of fucked up storyline where the villains in the universe being controlled by some outside force, which you don't really know about until the end, are just like going around murdering everybody and turning them into statues so they can like have these robot units suicide bomb huge areas and send them into the shadow realm. Literally, like the little Rob robots come out with a big ball and then they'll pull it apart, and then they're stuck in there, and they're just programmed to like not even really think about it until they've already done it, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we're gonna die," but they don't care, so they just kind of look down sadly and blow up.
I remember playing
stadium.
this campaign, but I have no idea about all that stuff. all the subtext. I just thought like you just go from
Yeah.
dude to dude
Because
fighting.
you can
things.
skip the cutscenes.
Maybe that's what I did. I
You
remember when
must
I was
have.
little, I
'Cause
didn't
It's
really
pretty
care.
obvious.
Well, I feel like Smash is one of those like really popular games I just never played. Like none of my friends played it, so I've never even heard about it.
So
Can we-
did none of you actually have an N64?
No.
No, I never.
What about
I never had
GameCube?
any Nintendo
No.
until the
Before
Wii.
we move on, I want to talk about just very briefly the controller for the N64. Have you guys seen? You guys have to have seen
The-
this, right? You know anything about games? You probably seen the controller.
I mean,
It's
obviously,
the
I'm
three.
familiar
I mean,
with
I've
it.
had
the
an
three-
N64. I had it like 3 months ago.
The three-pronged, like, you know what I'm talking about?
It looks like a cow's skull to anyone who's
Yeah.
never. It is kind of a
Innovative
bizarre
controller. You
control.
gotta give it credit. You gotta give it credit, but Jesus Christ.
In all honesty, and obviously it's
crazy.
just because I like grew up with it, it's not hard to use.
It makes it.
In my
I
opinion.
understand the reasoning behind everything. Like they made the face, but the B and A bigger than the other one. You know, you could tell where it is without looking at it. That sort of thing. But like,
Yep.
just the whole three. It's got triggers. I guess that's cool.
The trigger on the back is right
freehand.
like behind where you
Yeah.
see the red button in the center, which is the start
Yeah,
button.
yeah.
Like the analog was good. It was a well-made controller. Like if you were playing a game like Smash, you would just never really use the left bumper. Like the left bumper is probably the least touch button on any fucking N64 controller, and the D-pad is just for taunting. And that was the thing with all the Nintendo games they were built around that controller. They didn't like make the controller last minute to just look different. All the games were just built for that shit, except for maybe Time Splitters.
So the N64 came out in June 23rd, 1996, and then a couple months later, this is when PlayStation put out their DualShock 1 with the analog sticks, right? So it's just crazy to see that within a couple months, someone like came out with a completely better controller. As far as like the analog sticks, like it just makes more sense than having this weird like three-armed.
I
sort
mean,
of
as
thing.
good as the N64 controller,
As
good
what?
enough because it just doesn't carry on.
You cut out there.
I mean, as good as it was, like it just that whole design didn't really
Oh, it wasn't really
carry.
good. It wasn't a great
Right.
design.
I mean-
It worked, but like
Right. Because you know the
Yeah.
DualShock is still something that PlayStation's using now. It's same like you
Yeah.
know, same design.
or like the Xbox 360 controller. Think of how many controllers are now just like that. The Switch controller is basically just
Mhm.
a slightly shifted Xbox 360 controller. The Nintendo Pro.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we're gonna see any kind of variation. I mean, like crazy variation, like the N64 controller off of that anytime
That's
soon.
true.
Because it was
Yeah.
just on the tail end of like video games being a very young technology.
I mean,
We're
could
like-
you just imagine picking up something besides an Xbox One or a PS4 controller at this point?
Oh yeah. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
the
It's been-
N64 is like if you were like a bizarre third-party controller.
Yeah,
Right.
like if you picked up an N64 controller not knowing that it was an N64 controller, you'd
Yeah,
be
like
like, what the
kids
fuck?
nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
They'd be fucking freaked
They'd be
out.
like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
I think you're just going to run into the point that most technology does converge into a more convenient thing. At least,
Yeah.
I mean, knowing, with something I know a lot about. I know a lot about aviation history. When you first see them starting out in like the 1910s to 1930s, you've got some ridiculous friggin' designs in there. You've got like 4 wings and like pushing propellers and stuff like that inside the plane basically, but eventually it all starts to work into what we've basically got today. Which,
Right.
I
It's
mean,
more streamlined.
I know a lot about planes and I can't tell most passenger aircraft apart because they all look super similar.
Yeah.
There's little minutia that you can really become educated on, but I'm not going to put the effort in because they're just going to become obsolete in a few years anyways.
I mean, that's one of the things. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? Like, these
Yeah.
controllers work so well. Don't really need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, why bother?
Like
Trying to
GameCube
change it.
controller, Xbox 360 controller, and the PlayStation DualShock. I don't know if they're ever really going to get any better than those.
Yeah. I mean, unless we end up changing something about the way we play video games, couldn't see any way that they would need to change. You know what I mean?
Because
Or-
you've got platformers, you've got first-person shooters, you got fighting games, 3D and
Yeah. And I mean, there are
2D.
variations on all controllers that cater to those specific. Like they have like those like game pads that you use for like like fighting games, like that kind of stuff.
Oh, like
obviously,
fighting sticks.
yeah, like the whole
Right,
like
right.
like an arcade style one there.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like PlayStation needs to come out and make that their main controller because third party can just do that and they don't have to
Mhm.
try to
So
I
They
like
never
that
really have to
they're
do a
still
big
trying to
change.
innovate with that. They're trying to do like new stuff. Like they have the Switch with the Joy-Con and everything. Not that the Joy-Con is like an excellent remote, but it
Oh,
works
they're
in the
so
sense of
small.
like if you're playing the Switch as like a family party console and you just need like a little remote with a few buttons and maybe an analog on it, it's perfect. It's like the
Yes.
best thing.
Nintendo's really the only people that are kind of, because you look at the Wiimotes, and then you look at the god awful Wii U Fisher Price toy or tablet. It was awful, but then then they move on with the Switch, and like they're kind of the only people still pushing uh innovating on the controller space. All right, but we could do like a whole topic about controllers later on if you guys want. But if we move on to you were kind of led into the GameCube. You guys want to talk a little bit about the GameCube?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you can take it away.
for one, I think it's like one of the best. As much as there weren't like that were amazing. I mean, look at Melee. Came out in like what 2001, and it's still like the biggest game at Evo, or one of the biggest games at
Sure.
Evo.
Yeah.
You really have to respect that.
Was the it's gonna sound like a stupid game to bring up, but remember the Simpsons like Crazy Taxi game?
Oh,
What the hell was
what
that
was it
called?
called?
Hit and run.
Yep.
Hit and
I
Run.
think it
Yeah,
was
wasn't
Hit
that
and
on the
Run.
GameCube?
I thought that was a
believe-
PS2 game.
I think it might have been both.
Yeah, it might have
What?
been.
Xbox 360. What?
It was all of them. Okay, interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, the GameCube was really really strange. It had a handle on the top, so you could carry it around to your
And,
friend's house.
The games were so small.
Yeah,
But
the
also,
discs were
Crazy
really.
Taxi was around that time. No, that was 1999. Never mind. I thought that was newer.
I'm sorry, I was having some mic trouble there. I cut out.
Like
I'm
that?
cutting out a little.
Just like that.
Sorry, did I miss anything?
We were talking about how the GameCube's got a cute little handle on the top.
We were
Oh, yeah,
talking
it's
about how
Not-
much we
it's
hate
not even a
Amphibian.
cube.
Yeah, that's true. It's not even the correct dimensions for a cube. You guys hear about
Game
that?
fucking rectangular prism, you pedant.
We also touched on how much we hate Amphibian.
Yeah, I heard you the first time, Greg, and I get it. I get the
Yeah,
pandering
yeah.
insult that no one else can get. That's fine. Good job.
Mr. Saucy Mander.
So, I'm trying to think of like other big stuff that came out for the GameCube.
Let's see.
Oh,
was-
you got Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion. That was my
Yep.
jam game.
Those were the two biggest like Mario titles that came out
Yeah.
for that. I mean,
Melee,
there was like the major Mario,
Metroid Prime, Legend of Zelda,
the Wind Waker
Wind Waker, yeah.
released on GameCube, and it
Double
wasn't
Dash.
like as I'm trying to remember. Was it more popular with its HD re-release than it was originally, or was it very popular when it came out?
I don't know. I feel like it might have. Yeah, I feel like you're right. It might.
Because I don't know. I don't remember like it being super.
I don't remember it being like super sought after.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I remember. I was trying to think. I knew there was range for that because Wind Waker came out right like around. It was late on in the GameCube's lifetime, but it was right around when people were starting to get tired of like bright and colorful, cell shaded type of stuff. And people were starting to be like, all right, we want more gritty stuff. We want more, like dark things. That was when people like the gaming community, I think, was going through an edgy phase. I think that was
Right.
and that was right at the start of like when Nintendo started to not do as well as far as their games like perception, because like and then the Wii came out and the Wii was all aside from Ball, it was a lot of like not dark stuff. It was all like bright and cartoony and not super serious. Video games.
Right.
Huh?
So you guys were talking a little about the GameCube. Do you guys have any memories about either Xbox or PlayStation 2?
Oh,
I mean,
I remember
PlayStation
playing
2 was just
PlayStation.
really great.
That's the first console I remember like having like my own launch PlayStation 2. Yeah,
I,
games
I
like
I think I went through a few PlayStation 2s. Like
Grand
did you
Theft
ever have a
Auto.
Slim?
I think I did. I think I had the original like fat one, and then my brother took that to college way back when in like 2009 or something.
It was like
2009.
always like a competition at our house. Like, or is on a Need for Speed Underground.
Oh my god.
Dude,
I
like
still
my dad
remember
was always like the best at it, and then like me and my so good, and we like started beating him. And
I still remember sinking so many hours playing Need for Speed Underground 2.
oh, it was undoubtedly like one of the best racing games.
Oh
I
my
don't care
god.
how old it is. I literally pulled out my PS2, got a tiny TV that I had, and put it together like as like a little PS2 setup. It's like a fucking game. It was so good.
I'm looking at a,
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm looking at a list of like the best PS2 games or whatever. Just
me
like
too. Are you on Complex?
I was looking at that, but I'm just on the Google page. But like, man, they had some real bangers on this console. What a great console!
Oh yeah.
Like I remember playing.
Manhunt. You guys remember Man? I never actually played it, but I've heard about
It's the game where you pee on people and stuff, right?
it. Yeah, and you like strangle people with like fucking plastic bags. Real dark.
Crazy.
Real fucking
I
crazy.
I played GTA San Andreas a lot.
Yes.
See, my dad's ex-girlfriend had the PS2 with that game, but
Oh.
so we'd always
I,
go over her house and fucking play.
My mom got mad at me because once I played that in front of her and she did not like how I was like 10 and it had a ton of swears in it and stuff.
Well, you were having
Yeah.
sex with the hookers over and over again, so I understand why.
I was not doing that.
I am very doubtful at what you just said, Greg. I think you 100%.
Stupid.
Have
You
you
guys remember like
have you
not,
actually never met me? Like
you guys remember like not having to just like I don't know, not just like look up something online for like cheat codes. You get those little like books,
Oh
my
cheat
God.
codes,
like,
and you'd have to
manuals
find
get,
them.
like,
Yeah,
the
and you'd like
school.
write them down on a
dude, at the Scholastic Book Fairs?
Yeah, at the book
Yeah,
fairs,
yep.
dude. Jeez.
Yeah, dude. Now
That's
you
a
just
whole other
like
thing, dude. Like, if we talk about
Yeah.
cheat codes and stuff, it's like that's
now you either just like can't cheat in the game or it's just like way too easy. I don't
Dude,
know.
I had them memorized. It was
Yeah, my dad
that-
bought this like really thick book of like cheat codes for like every PS2 game.
dude.
It
That's
like
awesome.
completely died, didn't it? There just
Yeah,
aren't
no,
cheat codes
like,
anymore.
no,
Well,
you
now
don't
you-
see many
now-
anymore.
Like nobody really uses cheat because they're all online games. You can't really use cheat codes on.
That's
I mean,
true. It's hard to
you know.
implement.
Or even like
Yeah.
console games, even games that don't have an online component. Even if there was a capacity for like, unlock a skin for this or this or that, either
Yeah,
the cheat codes
now you
aren't in
just
there
pay
because
for
you
it.
could just look it up, or there's just
Oh, like booster packs and stuff like that, where you pay
Yeah.
for like renown boosters and all this other stuff.
Oh, you gotta buy
Yeah.
this key and hopefully you win it. I'm like,
Oh,
no.
jeez, yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'll close it out there. We've been going on for about an hour. We can definitely pick this up in a different episode.
Yeah, definitely.
We can take it from maybe start with PS2 and then move on to the more newer consoles.
you get to the more popular stuff. Get to maybe the Switch Pro and Wii U Pro.
Maybe start talking
Yeah.
about PC.
Maybe
Oh,
start
yeah, we
talking
can have
about
one
where
thing
these
about
consoles
PC
are gonna
games,
go. You know,
because
next
That could be the tail end of it. That's the culmin hit.
Right.
I feel like we're definitely coming up on next gen consoles, so we can start talking about
yeah,
what
I think
that
2020 definitely.
Yeah.
Consoles,
Alright,
but,
so we're closing it out.
yeah, I think we'll call it there. This has
All
been
right.
episode 1 of the
Undercast Show.
Undercast Show. I guess thanks for listening. If you happen to be listening,
All two people.
Yeah,
all 2 people.
Two's
my
probably being
parents.
generous.
Hi, Mom.
Honestly.
Thanks for listening.
And if you made it to the end, congratulations. You did better
Sorry,
than
I'm
I
such
probably
a
would have.
disappointment.
I don't know. Should we plug like our social medias and stuff for like the show?
We'll
Or
throw that shit in.
Yeah, just like put
Maybe
in
make
put in the
Casper do it.
description.
Make
Yeah,
Casper
Casper,
do it.
Casper will do it.
I don't want to do that.
click the bell, smash that bell icon to get
Smash,
notifications.
smash that motherfucking like
button.
button.
Like it for some Fortnite V-Buck skins,
Okay,
and
don't
thank
do that.
you for
Hey
listening.
guys, today I'm giving $1,000 to my favorite Twitch streamer. Come on down.